Good day, everyone. Chef Pete. We're going to be making beef stock today. Okay, so let's take a look at our mise en place for today. We have beef shin bones. We've got some beef scraps. These are scraps that I did when I was cleaning the beef tenderloin and some other beef that I had. I had frozen it and kept it for just such an occasion. I've got, I was hoping for tomato paste, which is what I normally use. But during isolation, I don't have any tomato paste. So I'm going to be using tomato ketchup, which works just as well. I've got some peppercorns, salt. I've got my mirepoix, which is onion, celery, and carrot, and those are washed and ready to go. I've got fresh parsley from the garden, and I've got some fresh thyme from the garden. I've got bay leaves and garlic. And if you don't have the fresh varieties, of course, use dry. Just realize that when you're using fresh herbs, it requires twice as much to give you the same amount of push, but it's a much better flavor, obviously. I also need some red wine for deglazing. If you don't have red wine or you cannot use red wine for some reason, you can deglaze with water as well. Okay, wine just gives it that richness. It will cook off. No one's going to get drunk on your stock. Okay, and we have a roasting pan and a stock pot. We also have set the oven to convect bake 450 degrees. And what we're trying to do here is we're going to brown our bones. We're going to get that deep richness. This is going to be a brown beef stock. Unlike the chicken or the white chicken stock that we made, this one here will have a real deep color and a deep flavor. So can you make a beef stock as a white stock? You absolutely can. Hang on, let me see if I can get this straightened out here. There we go. All right. So, yes, you can make a white beef stock, but it would be a mild beef taste. So, with beef, most of the time we're trying to make a gravy or we're trying to make a stew. We want that depth of flavor. So that's why we're going to be roasting and we're going to be caramelizing. And that tomato paste may seem a little weird, or even ketchup in this particular instance, but by brushing the outside of that, we add to the caramelization and we enrich it. Now, why do I use ketchup? Because ketchup is mainly made with tomato paste. They just add sugar and vinegar to it and some other spices and stuff, but it's going to achieve the same goal that we want to have with that. So why don't we get our mirepoix ready? Now, before I start my mirepoix, I'm going to actually get my bones and my scraps into the oven. Okay, so there's a couple of steps there. We're going to try to brown those bones, brown those scraps first. Then we're going to be adding our mirepoix to that. We're going to roast that as well. Once we get some browning starting to happening, then we're going to brush it all with a light coating of that ketchup. Perfect world, we'd have tomato paste. And we're going to roast all that. And then at the end of that, we're going to take that and we're going to put it into our stock pot. We're going to deglaze this pan with a little bit of red wine. And that red wine will help to lift up all those flavors that are all stuck onto this pan. And we'll put that into our stock as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay that on here like that. I'm going to put the rest of these scraps on there as well. Okay. And I'm going to be going in and out of the oven, just trying to make sure that these are nice and spread out and turned around and the whole bit. We will get some fat from this, and that's okay. There's a lot of flavor in the fat. And what it also does is once we strain that stock and we put it in the fridge overnight, in the morning, there'll be a nice layer of fat on top, which will help to preserve it a little bit longer than if it didn't have it at all. So that's a good thing. So I'm going to pop these in the oven. We'll rinse off my hands. And actually I'm going for a full wash. So everybody should be an expert in hand washing now within isolation. So this is cue the happy birthday song. No, I won't bore you with my singing. All right. So, hands are nice and clean. And let me move you views. So just as we did with the chicken stock, we've just washed our vegetables, okay, our mirepoix, so onion, celery, carrot. And we've washed it, we've brushed off anything that shouldn't be there, and we're just gonna cut it with the peels on the whole bit. We're just trying to get the flavors out of these vegetables, okay? So a lot of people ask me, and they say, well, why are you throwing out the vegetables after you've made that stock? That's perfectly good vegetables. Well, if you actually taste the vegetable, and if you've actually done a good job with your stock, there's no flavor left in it. It's actually quite bland and tasteless. So, and that's the idea. We want to take those nutrients and those flavors out of the mirepoix. We want to put them into our stock, which is going to be the vessel for which other foods are made, okay? And so all those minerals and all those vitamins and all that goodness and all that flavor is going to be in there too. So we're just going to roughly cut that. All right, just going to cut those into chunks this way. And same thing with my carrot. Okay, I'm going to cut that. I like to just split it in half first, expose some of the inside, and then, yep, just chop it up like that. All right, same thing here. Now, my intent with this beef stock is to eventually turn this into a beef sauce, and we're going to use that beef sauce to make poutine. So if I'm lucky enough at the grocery store and I'm able to find cheese curds, we're going to be off to the races, which will be great. Okay, so unlike the chicken stock, I'm not going to throw all this into my pot. I'm going to save all this mirepoix because I'm going to roast that in there once I get everything all nice and brown, and I'll try to show you that. These herbs are going to stay aside, and I'm going to save this garlic, but I'm not going to roast my garlic, and the reason I'm not going to roast it is just these little guys could get stuck on the bottom and burn, and burnt garlic gives you such a nasty flavor. So I will throw this in my stock, but I'm going to throw it at the same time as I throw my herbs and my bay leaves and my peppercorns and my salt. Okay, so anyways, I'll see you in a little bit once we get a little bit of roasting happening. All right, it's only been a couple of minutes, but I'm going to pull out the tray, start breaking that stuff apart. This was frozen meat after all, so I want to just try to break it up and make sure that I get a nice brown everywhere. So I'll just show you what I'm doing here. Okay, I'm going to pull this thing out. Okay, and you can see it, fantastic. So, just going to flip these scraps around and bring these bones around, and you're going to start to see there is some rendering of the fat that's starting to happen, and that's great. And you'll see this starts to come apart quite nicely. Okay, we've got a ways to go, but I just thought I'd show you that. And we're going to try to spread all this out and brown it really, really well. Okay, we'll see you in a bit. Okay, let's see how we're doing here. I think we're getting some good browning. I've already set off my fire alarm once, so I think we're getting some good work here. So nice hot heat. We're trying to get some nice browning here. Let's take a look. All right, it's starting to look pretty good. I'm feeling pretty confident. I think I'm going to put my mirepoix on. So I'm just going to spread out this mirepoix. That's it. And I want to get some browning on that mirepoix as well, right? That's it. Make sure you're using your oven mitts. Okay, and make sure that those oven mitts are not wet in any way. Because if you touch something hot, you're going to get hurt. Okay, and just for the video, normally I would let this go a little bit longer, but I'm just going to show you what I mean by painting the bones and stuff. But I would normally brown this a little bit longer. Okay, so I would take that tomato paste. In this case, we're using ketchup today, but I'm just going to a light painting like this. And just that's it. I don't want to have too much flowing all over the place. I just want this to caramelize and provide some beautiful browning, and it'll provide some richness to the flavor as well. And if a little bit goes on to your vegetables like this, that is not a bad thing at all. Okay, we want to get a nice brown. So again, once again, I would wait a little bit longer, but I just wanted for the case of the video, because I think I'm going to stop this here and do a part 2 when I take it out and put it into a pot. And when I get a little bit better educated on video production, then I'll be stitching this stuff together and making it one video. But until then, we're going to keep roasting this, and I'll see you guys in part 2.